And me and my partner Mitch built Mole Network. And Mole Network is basically a messaging and ETL system that lets contracts talk to other contracts. It lets them get data that they might need from like all sorts of different sources. And really, it's just like a really flexible tool that developers and products could use to get the data that they need, like on chain, off chain, and so on. And I feel like giving a demo might be the best way to explain how it actually works. So let's dive in. So if you're somebody that wants some specific data, you create a ETL spec. And what an ETL spec is basically just a file that tells the data reporters who are going to be getting your data, like what data sources it is that you want. So for instance, here I have like this mock ETL spec that says it wants to listen to these contract events. There's only one, but there could be multiple. So this first event is at chain ID 1. It happens to be the Uniswap USDC and wrapped ETH pool. And we want to listen to these events, which is going to be the swap event. Like quick aside, but this event definition actually gets parsed so that we can take the event data and make like individual arguments out of it, so that you're not working with like just like a raw bytes array. So when this event happens, we have a handle swap function that is going to handle it. We'll talk about that in a second. And when that event happens, we want to send it to this destination, which is a contract on Coinbase's base chain at this address. And the function that's going to handle that like on chain is this handle receive. And this, in this example, this would be a contract that like some developer put together. This isn't like a contract that Mole Network is managing. Sweet. So in this example, this person also wants to get alerted whenever this like Web2 API request happens. So it's going to be a GET request to this URL. The handler for this is going to be handle API, which is down here. And side note, these names can be anything. This API request is going to happen every 60 seconds. Every 10 minutes. Yeah. And the destination is going to be that same contract, but a different function. This one's going to be called handle web API. So let's look at one of these handler functions. So they get an error if one occurred. The data that, in the case of a on-chain event, this is going to be the raw data. We decode the data and pass it in as decoded data to make it easier to work with. And we also get this store, which is like a persistent data store that goes like across sessions. So you can like, in a previous event, like store some data and then use that data in a later event and send that to the blockchain. So cool. Yeah, we encode our payload, and if a handler returns an object with a payload key, then the data reporter knows that it should be written back to the destination. Otherwise, you can just like bail and that data won't be written. So we do the same thing for handle API, although this one's like a lot simpler. But yeah, so when we so if I was a data reporter, so now I'm like a different type of user, I would get these specs and use the CLI tool to actually like write this data. So the first thing that happened here is that we made the API request because like we basically just fire those off whenever we first start listening for them. And another one won't happen in this instance for another 10 minutes. But we actually successfully wrote that value to the destination contract. And here you can actually see that we received a swap event from Uniswap. They happen pretty frequently. And we also wrote this to that destination. So here we can go look at the contract that is getting these values. And here I'm going to hit query, and here I get the new value. And similarly, I mean, I doubt these change, but yeah, so this is like writing like pretty frequently now. Cool. So that's one thing you can do, but like I mentioned, it's kind of like meant to be a flexible system. So another thing we can do is, oh, come on. Sweet. So we can use this to basically like write a system that allows different contracts to message each other across chain. So here we're going to say mock cross chain. And cool. So I've got a messenger contract on Polygon and a messenger contract on Base. And here I'm going to get messages on Base, and it says hello from Polygon. And here I'm going to actually write hello demo, and I'm gonna have to sign this transaction. We can go look at the data reporter. And cool, so it caught that event and wrote it to the Base contract because that's what that data spec is doing. And now if we click get messages, it says hello demo as well. So those are two honestly like very many examples of things you can do. So not to like keep wasting the demo's time, but I've tested this acting as a data reporter for existing Oracle protocols. And we've, talked about not necessarily having the destinations be other contracts on chain, but it could be like Web 2 endpoints. So now you can just basically use this as an indexer. I'm super excited to see what other folks come up with in terms of ideas for how to use this. And yeah, that is Mole Network. Thank you.